Yes? No? Oh, more people are coming. Okay, I'm going to give everyone a minute because I see we had some more people come in and we're always happy to have more. Let them get seated. Can you not hear me? You cannot hear me? Okay, I will just speak louder. How's that? No, these don't go close to your mouth. They're not supposed to be close to your mouth. Okay, she was right. Sorry, I misunderstood that. Anyway, welcome to everybody. We're so happy that you're here, those of you in the sanctuary with us and those watching from home. Yes, those of us that are here are wearing masks. Mine will go back on as soon as I leave the podium. And as a reminder, we're asking everyone that's here to refrain from hugging, kissing, shaking hands for now. I know it's hard. It's hard for me, but we can do this. But tonight, I'm so happy to welcome back Rabbi Aviva and to introduce cantorial student Daniel Geigerman. Daniel has his Master's of Sacred Music from Hebrew Union College. He's a candidate for cantorial ordination at the Academy for Jewish Religion in New York City. He will be doing his 4th year of High Holy Day services at Temple Israel in Ottawa, Canada, and his home is in St. Louis, Missouri. We are so glad that he's here with us tonight. We will welcome him, I'm sure. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's so wonderful to be back and to see all of you who are here, and know that all of you who are worshiping from home are here as well. And we welcome cantorial student Dan also into our midst. We're so happy to have him help to lead the service this evening. We're going to start with candles and kiddush. Know that we will have announcements as to sponsorships later in the service, so those who are watching from home will hear them as well later on. For now, let's turn to page 121. 120 and 120. Oops, is that it? Yes, 120 and 121. And I will light the candles, and please sing along with me. And now Dan will do us the honor of leading us all in the Kiddush. And that is on pages 122 and 123.
Erev Boker Yom HaShishi Vayechulu Hashamayim V'Haaretz B'chol Tzva'am V'chal Elohim Bayom HaShvi'im Melachto Asher Asa Vayishbot Bayom HaShvi'im Melo Melachto Asher Asa Vayerev Elohim Et Yom HaShvi'i Vayikadesh Oto Kivo Shavat Milo Kol Melachto Asher Bara Elohim La'asot Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim. So it's so wonderful that we're all here together, including those who are worshiping from home. So let's start with a song of Hine Ma Tov. How wonderful it is we're all here together. Page 128.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, ידה לה ידה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, ידה לה ידה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Let's continue on page 130 with Psalm 95 as we sing Lechuna Ranana. now we're ready for Lecha Dodi on page 138, and as has become our custom here, we will be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And we'll slow down for verse 9 and rise, if you are able, as you are able to face the back and welcome in the Shabbat bride or queen into our midst. Page 138, Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Likrat Shabbat, Lech V'nelcha, Ki Bekor HaBeracha, Berosh Miketeh Nesucha, Tzobase B'Mashav B'Achila, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Sham v'zachor v'diborecha, Hinianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem ol tiferet elichila, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Itoreri, Kiva Orech, Uri, Shedaveri, Kivod Adonai Elech Nikla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lo Shalom Ateret Mala, Gam Besimcha U'Betzola, Toch Emunei Am Segula, Lo Ichala, Lo Ichala. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Ve'Kabela.
And now that we're standing, those who are able to do so, please remain so as we turn to page 146 for the Barchu, the call to worship.
Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach
Please take a seat as we turn to page 148 for Ma'ariv Aravim.
Yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai dai, yai dai dai dai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, ma'ariv aravim. Bechokma poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם, ורקיע כרצונו. יאי די די די, יאי די די די, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai dai, yai dai dai dai. Borei yom v'layla, golelo mibnei choshech v'choshech mibnei or, umavir yom ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. יאי די די די, יאי די די די, יאי די די די, יאי די 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 די, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Yai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai.
We read together on page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Those who are able to do so, please rise for Shema, pages 152 and 153.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
Please take a seat as we continue with Ve'ahavta, page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem
Emet.
Emet. We turn now to page 160 for the Hashkivenu. And this is a prayer asking for God's sheltering presence. And so we ask for God's sheltering presence over all of those places in the world in which it is needed the most. And please join us as we sing the Hashkivenu on page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu
Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. V'hamidenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim.
Ushmor tzidkenu uvoenu lechayim v'shalom le'ata ve'olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim.
I think most of you are aware that I went on a vacation and I've just returned, but you may not know that where I went on vacation. I went to two places. I went to Maine just for the love of nature and enjoyment thereof, and also to pick up my son, Angelo, who was finishing up camp up there as well. And then we all went to Chicago to visit with my sister, who lives in the outskirts of Chicago. Maine is a very special place to me. When I was, I would say, about 12 years old, we went on a family trip to Bar Harbor, Maine, after actually my sister was finished with her camp, different camp, but also in Maine. And Bar Harbor, Maine was such a beautiful, peaceful, and to me, spiritual place that it really opened up my spirituality as a young preteen and teenager and through my life. And I remember that spark having been lit there in me in Bar Harbor in a different way. I'd always been somewhat spiritual, but there I felt it connect. And it was such a special place that for the rest of my life, until now, when anyone has asked in a meditation or whatnot to think of your happy place, that's usually the first place that I think of, is sitting and looking at the beauty of Bar Harbor, Maine. And I had the opportunity to revisit Bar Harbor. A little bit more crowded than I remember it, but of course I was not the one driving when I was there before, so maybe my parents had a different view. But just as spectacular and beautiful. And when I sat on a bench and overlooked the Bar Harbor, the harbor there, in Bar Harbor, I couldn't help but say a Shehachianu, that I was returning to the spot that felt like my happy place, that it was actually a place and not just a vision in my mind. So I'm going to ask you, as we enter into this tefillah, to be in your happy place, in your mind. Where have you felt God's presence in your life in a positive way? Wherever that has been. Where have you felt at peace? Or when have you felt at peace in your life? Like everything was just perfect the way it was, just for that moment. So if you can imagine that, that's the kavanah, the intention I'd like to ask you to take into the tefillah. And as usual, we'll begin the tefillah with the first 3 brachot in Hebrew, along with Dan. And then we'll go into a time of meditation. And please take this silent meditation as your time to connect however you wish to do. And when you're finished, take your time, but when you're finished, please sit down so we know that we may continue with the service. So we begin together on page 164, and I ask those of you who are able to do so to rise for tefillah.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitei techa. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevei Geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatah, Mechakil chayim mechesed, Mechayei תמיד עבודת ישראל ישראל עמך אל קרוב לכל קוריאו פני אל עבדך וחוננו שפוך רוחך ותחזינה עינינו ושובך לציון
Thank you. That was beautiful, Dan. Thank you. We continue now with the opening of our Torah service. We will have a little bit of an opportunity to hear Torah tonight. And we will begin on page 362 as we begin our Torah service. And as the ark is opened, I ask that we please rise in body or in spirit, or both.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malechutecha malechut ol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam vaed, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael v'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, unirov ema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagidula v'hagivura, v'atiferet v'hanetzach v'haod. Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamlacha, ve'amid na'aseh lechol rosh.
Please take a seat. This week we are in Parshat Erev, and that may be found in our maroon clout commentary on page 1379, 1379. And we'll begin at the very beginning of the Parsha.
As soon as we find it.
Okay, we will have one congregational aliyah, so I hope you haven't gotten too comfortable. If you wish to stand for this aliyah, please do. Ya'amdu kol hakehila li'aliyah. And together we say the bracha. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. והיה עקב תשמעון את המשפטים האלה ושמרתם ועשיתם אותם ושמר אדוני אלוהיך לך את הברית ואת החסד אשר נשבע לאבותיך ואהבך וברכך והרבך וברך פרי בטנך ופרי אדמתך דגנך ותשך ויצהרך שגר עלפיך ואשתר צונך על האדמה אשר נשבע לאבותיך אשר נשבע לאבותיך לתת לך ברוך תהיה מכל העמים לא יהיה בך עקר ועקרה ובבהמתך והסיר אדוני ממך כל חולי וכל מדווה מצרים הרעים אשר ידעת לא ישימם מך ונתנם בכל שונאיך ואכלת את כל העמים אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך לא תחוס עיניך עליהם ולא תעבוד את אלוהיהם כי מוקש הוא לך.
Before we do the closing blessing, I'll read the translation as it appears in Plout. And if you do obey these rules and observe them faithfully, Adonai your God will maintain for you the gracious covenant that he made on oath with your fathers. He will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will bless the issue of your womb and the produce of your soil, your new grain and wine and oil, the calving of your herd and the lambing of your flock, in the land that he swore to your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all other peoples. There shall be no sterile male or female among you or among your livestock. Adonai will ward off from you all sickness. He will not bring upon you any of the dreadful diseases of Egypt, about which you know, but will inflict them upon all your enemies. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know we're coming to something good here. You shall destroy all the peoples that Adonai your God delivers to you, showing them no pity. And should you say you shall not worship their gods, for that would be a snare to you. Should you say to yourselves, these nations are more numerous than we, how should we dispossess them? You need not have fear for them, but have to bear in mind what Adonai your God did to Pharaoh and all the Egyptians, the wondrous acts that you saw with your own eyes, the signs and the portents, the mighty hand and the outstretched arm by which the Lord your God liberated you. Thus will Adonai your God do to all peoples you now fear. Where's the Ve'achalta part? I'm not seeing that. I know you read that, but I don't see it.
It was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So somewhere here, although I'm not finding the verse, you said, Ve'achalta v'savata, and you shall eat and be satisfied for all that Adonai your God has given you, and bless Adonai your God for all that God has given you and all the good land that God has given you. So we will be talking about that verse a little bit later, but let's conclude with a concluding bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. And now a blessing for everyone. Misha be'erach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the Holy One who blessed all our ancestors bless all of us who have come up today in honor of God, in honor of Torah, in honor of Shabbat, and in honor of our commitment to our sacred community. May the Holy One of blessing grant all of us good, long, healthy lives filled with joy, peace, and love in our homes, and all good things, prosperity in all of our labors, along with all of our families and friends, and along with the entire house of Israel. And let us all say, Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Yeshar Koach. Please take a seat. Before we lift and tie the Torah scroll, we're going to have a Misha Berach blessing for healing. And I have here a list of those who we know are in need of healing. And I'm going to place that list on top of our sacred Torah scroll to look at as we sing the Misha Berach. But I'd like to ask everyone here, as well as worshiping from home, if you have a name or names of those you are thinking of who are in need of healing of body, mind, spirit, or of all three, please say those names aloud now. So for all of those we have named, all of those on our list, and all of those good people around the world who are in need of healing, we sing this healing Misha Berach.
This Misha Berach was written by Cantor Dan Singer in New York, and I had the pleasure to work with him. He's the most spiritual cantor I've ever worked with, and I think that shows from this composition. Misha Berach Avotenu, Misha Berach Imotenu, heal us and heal our world. Misha Berach Avotenu, Misha Berach Imotenu, Misha Berach Imotenu, heal us and heal our world. Misha Berach Avotenu, Misha Berach Imotenu, heal us and heal our
Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. And now we're ready to lift and tie our Torah scroll. And at this time, I'd like to invite up, is it Dave?
Yeah.
Dave Cotton, to be our Hagba and to honor us by lifting our Torah scroll high in the air for everyone to see. And the rest of us, please rise if you are able, as the Torah scroll is lifted and we sing V'zot HaTorah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די די יאי די 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 Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai yai dai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai yai dai dai dai. יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לענו, תהילה לכל חסידיו, לפני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. כי לכך טוב נתתי להם תורתי אל תעזובו. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, וטוביה מאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
One of my favorite movies to teach from, using clips from it, is the movie Pay It Forward. Well, I should say, most of the movie I like. The ending, not so much. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I definitely disagree with the choice of the ending. And it also stars Kevin Spacey in one of the lead roles, so given the allegations against him, you may not choose to see it, but it is a fabulous story nonetheless. But here's the basic premise of the film. A young teenage boy named Trevor takes an assignment in school very seriously. In the assignment, he is to realize an idea that will better society and the world. Trevor calls his plan, Pay It Forward. The basic idea is this. He does a very good deed, something that really changes life for someone for the better. And then that person is obligated not to pay it back to him, but yet to pay it forward by doing 3 good deeds for 3 other individuals, and who in turn then pay it forward, each of them, to 3 more. So there are various plot twists in the movie, including the bad ending, but basically we see that this idea of paying things forward, paying it forward, really does increase exponentially the good in the world, in his community and also beyond his own community. Paying it forward instead of paying it back is a concept also in Musar, in the Jewish spiritual practice of living our ethical and moral imperatives, our Jewish values. 2 of these values are nidivut, or generosity, and hakarat hatov, literally recognizing the good, or put more simply, gratitude. In other sermons I've given here, I've discussed the importance of hakarat hatov, which is gratitude, and its importance in helping to deflect feelings of sadness, jealousy, or feeling of lacking something in our lives. I've even discussed gratitude journaling as a regular activity that helps some people to focus on the good in their lives. But tonight I'd like to discuss the other of these values, nidivut, or generosity. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Erev, we have the famous verse, which Dan did chant beautifully, Ve'achalta v'savata uverachta et Hashem Elohecha al ha'aretz hashova asher natan lach, which means, when you have eaten and you are satisfied, bless the Eternal for the good land God has given you. You may recognize this verse from the Birkat Hamazon, the traditional blessing after meals, especially if you went to a Jewish summer camp where that was sung every day. Some of you are nodding, yes. And this verse in our Torah portion tonight, is actually the basis for the Birkat Hamazon, the blessing after our meals. The ancient rabbis interpreted this to mean that any time we eat, we should eat and then say a blessing afterward. This may come as a surprise to those of us who grew up in the Reform movement with saying many blessings before we eat, including Hamotzi and perhaps Borei Pri Ha'etz, Borei Pri Ha'adamah, those kind of blessings for the food before we eat. But actually, the blessing after we eat is considered to be more important because that is actually in the Torah. It's an imperative to say something after we eat, to acknowledge this blessing. Now, there's a verse with similar phrasing in next week's Torah portion, Parshat Re'eh, and that one goes like this. And the Levite, because he has no part nor inheritance with you, and the stranger, and the orphan, and the widow, who are inside your gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that Adonai your God may bless you. So the same verbs that we have in this particular verse of our portion, eat and be satisfied, are used in both parshiot in these two verses. Yet in this week's Torah portion, it is we who are the ones eating and blessing God, saying a bracha to Hashem. In next week's Torah portion, it is others who do not have enough to eat, who are eating and are then satisfied. And then it is God who blesses us rather than we blessing God. So since these two verbs are repeated, this indicates that there is some kind of connection between these two verses of Torah, since one of the understandings of Torah interpretation is that there's nothing extraneous in Torah. If something is repeated, it bears questioning why. There must be some underlying reason. Since we cannot ever repay all of God's blessings to us, we acknowledge these blessings with a bracha that we say, and then we must ensure that we provide for those who do not have enough to eat. And then we are blessed by God again. We cannot pay back the divine for all we are given in our lives, but we can pay it forward to others who are made in the divine image. We turn our hakarat hatov, our gratitude, into nidivut, generosity toward others. God then works through us in this cycle of giving and receiving. There are times in all of our lives when we are on the receiving end of blessing, when we may be lacking. We may have suffered a loss or have just had surgery or be incapacitated or disabled, either temporarily or permanently, and we require the assistance of others, the blessing that they bestow on us. And God willing, there will also be times in which we can pay it forward, our abundance, to others, even if just with our time or energy, or even just a helpful word at the right time. We are taught that even those who rely on others' tzedakah are required to give just a bit of tzedakah as well, to assist others as much as we can. There will always be someone as needy or needier than we are at any given moment. I'm very proud of our congregation, and particularly of our social action community, because even throughout the pandemic, when people were afraid for their own health and circumstances, our social action committee, including many of you watching and listening now, continued to make sandwiches and to deliver them to people who are food insecure in our own community. This is something that was begun a couple of years ago in our community, the making of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, usually on Sundays, that were then taken and distributed to those who are food insecure in person at a particular park. But this did not stop with the pandemic. You kept it going, and I think that was really a beautiful thing that our community has done. And many of you stepped up in other ways for our congregation, as shalom callers, for example, or volunteers for our gala, or other online events throughout the year that we've been dealing, the year plus that we've been dealing with the pandemic. And as much as those activities helped others, I hope that you who gave also felt nourished and blessed to be able to engage in these mitzvot. In our society, there's often talk of the cycles of abuse, neglect, and pain. Survivors of abuse by others frequently go on to abuse others themselves. However, cycles of behavior not only include those that are negative, there are positive ones as well. There is a saying from Pirkei Avot, mitzvah goreret mitzvah. One mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. Such is the cycle of good in our world. This Shabbat, may we renew ourselves so that we can recognize all of the good in our lives, the blessings we so often take for granted. Then may we find ways to pay it forward to others, to practice nidivut, generosity towards those around us. And in this way, may God's blessings continue to shower down upon us as well as through us. Shabbat Shalom.
So I was thinking, what would be a good sermon anthem? And the rabbi and I talked about it back and forth. Maybe mitzvah gereret mitzvah. That would be great. But I said, I think I have a better one. And this is an Aleinu. It takes the words Aleinu l'shabeach. And songwriter Dan Nichols and cantor Ellen Dreskin got together and put this together because we always seem to chant the Aleinu, but we never read the English. So what are we saying? It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true, to bring about redemption. It's what we were free to do. For what's the point of being here if we're not moved to change our ways? Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise. It's up to us to own the vision. We are an answer to a call. It's up to us to live the words we speak for the benefit of all. It's up to us to bow down deeply. There's a broken world to raise. Aleinu l'shabeach. It's time to live our praise.
And it is time for us to do so as well. I invite you all, please, to rise as you are able for the Aleinu prayer, page 586.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. נאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. At this time, we recall those whose yahrzeits, the anniversary of their passing, occur at this time. Those whose names are on the plaques: Morris J. Appel, Albert Barth, Edward Bennett, Henry Berger, Alvin Beckerman, Sidney Bernstein, Michael Brody, Roslyn Chazen, David Gorfinkel, Maurice Halle, Sarah Jacobson, Chaim Jupiter, Isidore Cades, Philip Kirschbaum, Jules H. Kurland, Gertrude Liederman, Leon Marmon, Isaac Noodleman, Bertram Riegler, Isidore Rothman, Tessie Saunders, Bernice Schumann, George Steinberg, Rita Toscher, Alice Weinstock, and Henry E. Weiss. Others recalled at this time: Esta Aronowitz, Mary Berger, Sheldon Block, Fanny Curran, Hyman Galler, Sandra Goinshore, Beatrice Greenlick, Henry J. Huberger, Pearl Horowitz, Donald Landy, Andrew Mandel, Donald Rome, Lillian Wax, and Joseph Weinthal. Also recalled at this time are the more recent passings of Rosalie Harris, Marilyn Siller, Mary San Antonio, and Irene Macheron. If you are recalling someone whom I have not named, please stand up and I'll acknowledge you, or just raise a hand so you can say the name aloud. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll start here.
My uncle Jacob Silverman.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. So for all of those whom we have named, as well as all of those who were murdered in the Shoah, we rise in solidarity with mourners everywhere as we recite the Mourners Kaddish on page 598. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divarach hirute v'yamlich malchute B'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulal me'amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudesha brichu, le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please take a seat, and we'll have now a word from our sponsors, or about our sponsors.
Okay, I neglected before to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know, I am Betty Adams, co-president of Temple Sinai, along with Lynn Weinstein, and also to introduce and welcome at the end Dr. David McFarland, our fantastic accompanist. We're always happy to have him here. Tonight's service, Erev Shabbat service, is sponsored by Dr. and Mrs. Walter Weinstein in memory of Shifra Sarah Jacobson, Barbara Walsh in memory of Esta Aronowitz, Marcia and Roger Huberger in memory of Roger's beloved father, Henry J. Huberger, Marilyn and Jerry Wilk in memory of Marilyn's beloved mother, Beatrice Greenlick. The following donations to the community food pantries are sponsored by Marcia Weber in honor of Elaine Farber's speedy recovery. And our Saturday, July 31st Shabbat Torah study is sponsored by Marcia and Roger Huberger in memory of Roger's beloved father, Henry J. Huberger, Elaine and Norman Pollock in memory of Fanny Curran, Jean Hirschberg in memory of Rita Toscher, Lori Weiss-Wolchin and David Wolchin in memory of Lori's grandmother, Pearl Horowitz, Dr. and Mrs. Walter Weinstein in memory of Shifra Sarah Jacobson, Ruth Kurland in memory of Jules Kurland, Barbara Mandel in memory of Andrew Mandel, Lila Goldman in memory of her beloved mother, Pearl Horowitz, and Jane Brown in memory of Marilyn Siller. Thank you very much.
And now we close our service with this same theme. Ani ve'ata, you and I will change the world. Page 652.
אני ואתה נשנה את העולם. אני ואתה אז יבואו כבר כולם.
אמרו את זה קודם לפניי, לא משנה, לא משנה, אני ואתה נשנה את העולם.
אני ואתה
ננסה מההתחלה, יהיה לנו רע, אין דבר זה לא נורא. אמרו את זה קודם לפניי, לא משנה, לא משנה, אני ואתה נשנה את העולם.
אני ואתה נשנה את העולם.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.